Hello and welcome to The Beat, a news and talk program brought to you by the Center for Community Media here at Worcester State University. On this episode, we have Dianne Langford James, the founder of Cycle Breakers and the keynote speaker for African American Read-In Day here at the campus. Dianne, thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Absolutely, my pleasure to be here.
How are you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you?
Not bad, good. So, it's my understanding that you are a Worcester State alumni, right?
Yes, I am,
and for
proud
the
alumni.
Wonderful, and for the communication department as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, if any, what impact did Worcester State have on you when you came here?
Oh, goodness. I was 46 when I came here. I remember when I first got here, they were saying, look to your left, look to your right. One of you won't be here at graduation because, you know, life happens, right? So I looked up and I said, all right, if I'm alive, I'm going to be here, because at 46, you've learned a few things, you've been a few places, and you come to play intentionally and come to learn. There's a saying, when the student is ready, the teachers appear. So when I came here, I was ready to learn and love communications. So I jumped right in with 2 feet.
It's awesome. That's a really good quote, by the way. I really like that.
Yeah.
Now, so I hear also that you are the founder of Cycle Breakers,
Yes.
and you are a life coach for Women's Transformational.
Absolutely.
So, what's Cycle Breakers all about? And also, what inspired you to start this?
Well, I take it from my own life. Unfortunately, I fell victim to substance abuse when I was around 24 years old, and lost a decade of my life. And then when I finally realized that I wasn't a victim, that I needed to take responsibility, that I didn't write that part of my book. I didn't grow up and say, you know, I want to be an addict. It happened to happen when I had a few drinks, and then escalated from there. And so once I got clean, I realized I needed to take responsibility. That's where it all started. Take responsibility for me and mine, that I was blessed to be alive, that I've seen so many people lose their life. And so I was taking responsibility. Then I looked up and raised 3 grandchildren. And then I decided to come to Worcester State to change the trajectory of my family. And then years later, I realized I was breaking cycles. And I was breaking cycles of addiction. And then coming to Worcester State, I was a first-generation college graduate, breaking cycles there. And that's where it birthed from. And coming from recovery, I realized that many people don't make it. The statistics are very low. And so I said to self, you need to write about this to give others hope. In regards to not only writing about it, because it's not just about my stories, because Oprah says we all have a story. So it's not just about my story, but it was about how my story can impact others and give them hope. And so that's where Cycle Breakers was born, and here we are today.
Wonderful. Great. So, reading on my notes here, there was one part you talked about, correct me if I got this right, but the four seed formula?
Yes.
Is that, okay. Do you mind talking to us a little bit about the 4 seed formula and what entails with that?
Absolutely. I see you did your homework too. Again, I didn't want it to just be about me and my story. I wanted it to support. So we created a 4C formula. And the 4C formula is a system that you can work through to be able to create results. Because at the end of the day, it's all about results. So 4C formula is 1, the cycle. What cycle is negative and you would like to break in your family? Because again, every generation should be better than the last. So what
Absolutely.
cycle is it, no matter what? The second one was challenges. There's going to be challenges all through the life. And I think of people, places, and things, and challenges. So when you know that up in front, then the next one is choices, the third one. So now you make a choice. You're going to do it or you're not. There's no gray area. You're deciding that, yes, I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to live. And no matter what, get the support that I need and allow people to help me until I can help myself. That's what I did. And the last piece is the call to action. Because if you don't have a call to action with deadlines, then you're really shooting at nothing. It's a dream not going to be happening. So call to action with deadlines. You can renegotiate the time because life happens and things. You can celebrate the perceived failures that might be happening, celebrate the small victories and the large ones too. So that is how the 4 C's was birthed.
Absolutely awesome. Thank you for that. Now, so looking at last week when you were talking with I believe it was the high school students here at Read-In Day, one thing I picked up on is you talked about self-identity and who we are as people, and then that's when you talk about I think you mentioned the different cycles you had. I think one of them was a relationship, and can't quite remember what the other ones were. But is there anything you'd like to touch up on that?
Yeah, I just want to say there's a lot of cycles, not just addiction. There's family dynamics. There's health. There's so many other cycles that are not working. I think of the teens today, and the adults too, because I say myself, and I think of the cell phones that we have. I'm a firm believer that anything you abuse will abuse you. So we have the phones, which is a way to the world, when we use it correctly. And so that is another form of addiction, if you will. These video games. And hey, yeah, if you want to play, absolutely. But take responsibility for the time that you are doing what you're doing. Because again, when it controls you, then it is not working for the better. We only have so long on this earth.
Right.
We all have 24 hours a day. So what are you going to do with that time? It's so important.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually going off of that, there was one quote, I believe he said your grandmother had mentioned it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, "We get old too fast, smart too late." That one really hit me. I just thought that was really good, really cool. Do you mind elaborating on that?
Absolutely. I have an uncle who's 94. And when he found out I was coming back to school, he was so excited. He was so excited. So he's 94. So he's like, "Diane, make sure you get on the dean's list." And I'm like, "What's a dean's list?" Because I truly didn't know. And then he explained it to me. And of course, with hard work, I did get on the dean's list several times. But he says, and it's so great to see and be with grandparents or people with some wisdom and just have conversations, And so we're riding down the street one day and he goes, "Boy," because he's 94 now, right?
Right.
And he's like, "We get old too fast and smart too late." I said, "What a statement, Uncle," So I thank him for his wisdom. He's since passed. But I speak about him often because you can get little nuggets that will carry you to infinity that really fill your tank. And so that was one of them, my uncle.
That's very inspirational. I love that.
Yeah.
So using that when you brought it up during your speech here, if there was one thing you could, if you wanted them to take away, like the high school students, if you wanted something, if there was one thing you'd like for them to take away from this experience here, and maybe a piece of advice that you'd give them, let's say if they were thinking about going to college or they had these big dreams, what would you say to them?
Number one, I would say self-awareness and self-identity is so important. Know you. Learn to know you. Learn to love every part of you just as you are. We're all unique. I heard something the other day that we're all so unique. We all have different fingerprints.
Yes.
Ooh, and I was like, that's a good one too.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like my uncle, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we're all so unique. And unfortunately, we're always looking out. Just like you're looking at me and I'm looking at you. Right. We really don't look inward. But when you can look inward and find out who you are and what you love, then you know what to accept in your life. Does that make sense? Yes. So I would tell them I would say to find mentors, people that have already done something that you want to do. I would say stay educated, be educated. Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. It is a lifestyle. It's not a one and done, just like we were talking about you right now, and you're getting ready, already a senior. Look at how time flew, right?
Oh, yeah, you can say that again.
And now you're talking about, okay, I'm not leaving this, I'm going to go to grad school.
Yeah.
And you want to continue out. Stay educated and have fun. When you have fun and you have fun in life, it's all worthwhile. Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Now, I would like to touch upon your book. I believe it's Breaking Cycles and Building Your Legacy.
Yes.
It's something you brought up as well last week. What inspired you to write that per se? And is there maybe something you want to share with the book as well?
Oh, absolutely. What I want to say about Breaking Cycles is that I have married twice, so I speak about this often, but I give broad strokes because we don't have enough time. Married twice, so we have 6 children, 21 grandchildren.
Wow, that's wild.
5 great-grandchildren. So you do the math. I'm not going to say anything, because
Right.
usually I say that other part about the age, but I'll do the math. And for Mother's Day, they did me a PowerPoint presentation. And most of them said, what does grandma say mostly? And they said, let's take a picture. Go figure, communication mate.
Absolutely.
Take pictures, they're priceless,
Yeah.
right? So like, and the other thing was, what would you like to know more of? And they said her teenage years and her younger years when she was younger. So that just struck a chord in my heart, you know, of leaving a legacy so that they can understand, because they know me now. They know the Dianne that was clean and sober. They also know the Dianne that lived a great life as a young child, and then made a poor choice, because I can't give anybody the responsibility but me. I'm responsible for what I do. You know, we have a tendency of blaming others. Oh, I was with her, and oh, it's this, and they did it. No, I took responsibility. When you can get to that place. So I wrote the book a little bit. So I started at the beginning, when I was a child, when I was a teenager, you know, when I was high school, and little parts and brief parts so they can get to know you.
Right, right.
I'm a firm believer, Mike, that people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, until you're relatable. Does that make sense?
So yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
And so I wrote that, and then I go into the addiction and how it hit me like a freight train, and how I lost a decade of my life, and how the losses that happened, and some of the things that happened to me. Of course, you can't put it all in the book.
Right.
But I did it so that I could be relatable, and I did it to be transparent as well. And then I went to 2009 and timeline, because I have a lot of family,
Yeah.
a lot of things to go on.
Absolutely.
So I did at the end of 2009, I believe it was, to the timeline, things that have happened in the family, because I stayed consistent, I stayed persistent, I was resilient, and no matter what happened in the life, because things happen, I stayed the course. And so then I had at the end I give some really good nuggets at the end as well, which is like sort of a roadmap for others as well. And that was the premise of the book.
That's wonderful. I'm sure, and when you mentioned it as well, you don't know what anyone's going through, really. Maybe somebody else is going through addiction, and maybe they definitely felt touched by what you were saying, maybe the book as well. Is there anything, let's say if there is someone who's going through some tough times here, is there anything you'd like to say for them to maybe inspire them? I believe that's a good word for that.
Sure. I had said to myself, right, just because things are going bad, you don't have to go bad with them. Stay the course. Ask for help. Reach out. You know, and if somebody is in addiction, it's not the thing of, you know, picking up. It's the thing of picking up the phone before you pick up.
Right.
Because it'll pass. And then once you do some things and start seeing some things and understand your worth and your being, and that your past that happened doesn't dictate who you are, you get the strength to continue to go and to live your best and blessed life.
It's really good. I like that. Thank you. Would you like to read a passage from your book?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. And I feel that it's appropriate for me to do the break-in cycles in education.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Education is a great equalizer of our time. It gives hope to the hopeless and creates chances for those without. Kathiana. After my youngest sister had passed away, I fell a hard cycle of denial. I had some panic attacks and flashbacks, and generally a feeling of displacement. It was as if I had been underwater way too long, and I was in constant state of reaching for air. I was now looking at life through a different lens. Once again, I was in a dark period, trying to figure out which direction I should go, because life does happen. At that time, I was working a full-time job, and I spent my days going to the office, to my home, sleeping more days away than I had in a long time. Depression paid me many visits, but I was not going to allow it to settle in and drag me back to the never-ending tunnel. So sitting quietly was something I practiced and then reflected on my life. And soon I added prayers to the experience. There was something that I needed to change, and I knew it was that I couldn't do it on my own any longer. I saw just how fast time went. We are not here forever. We all have a date with destiny. All the quotes you hear casually spread as sources of encouragement became true to me. From everybody dies, but not everybody lives, to we have a beginning and an end. It's what we do in between that counts. It is a gift to be here, and we must treasure it, no matter what it looks like. The fact is, before my sister Frances fell sick, she was obtaining her degree at a local college. So in her honor, and in an effort to change the trajectory of my life, I continued in her college footsteps. The following week, I turned in my letter of resignation and made my way to the campus of then Worcester State College, with hopes of enrolling that semester. When I dropped off my papers, a lady told me that the enrollment date had passed. Bless her heart, it was apparent she didn't know who was standing in front of her at that moment, but she would soon find out. I made my way to speak directly to my academic advisor regarding the pertinence of my situation, and after hearing my story, the associate director said he would be in touch with me. 2 days later, I received a phone call from the associate director to congratulate me on my acceptance to Worcester State College. I had wished and prayed for this, and earth angels will appear in your life, known and unbeknownst to you. For me, that angel was Mark Balada. Thank you for your grace, my brother, for being the person who made it happen. Every time I see him, I thank him. And I hope that every time you see someone who has made a difference in your life, that you thank them as well. Appreciation and acknowledgement are keys to the next door and the most effective way to building trust and respect. I thank God daily for his favor and for the blessing me abundantly during a time when I desperately needed it.
And that was amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. I look so forward to my tour that's coming. I look so forward to speaking at many events and venues. And just remember, you can break cycles and build legacies as well.
Let's say if anybody wanted to ever reach out to or wanted to learn more about cycle breakers and maybe even purchase the book, where would they need to go?
Oh, good questions. Cycle Breakers has a website, which is cyclebreakersinternational.com. International is INTL, cyclebreakersinternational.com. You can find me also on Facebook and Instagram, Dianne Langford James. And the book can be found on Amazon.
Dianne, thank you so much for that.
Mike, great job. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Beat. We'll see you next time.